Hey, thanks everybody for joining us today on Live Music Nation podcast. I'm your host, Jake Gill. Today, we're with Seth Dunlap from the Paxico Blues Festival. Seth, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate the reach out and got to check out some of your other interviews online. And so thanks for being an advocate out there for these types of festivals and communities around the country. It's fun to listen to some of the other interviews.
Sure. Seth, give us a background on you. Where did you grow up? Talk a little bit about your career and then your position now with the Blues Festival.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of arrived here, I guess, a roundabout way. I grew up in the Midwest. I was born Paris, Illinois, kind of in Illinois-Indiana state line, and grew up in Terre Haute, Indiana. Went to college in Indiana at DePaul University outside Indianapolis, which led me to Chicago after work. So worked in Chicago, or after school, worked in Chicago for many years in New York, where I met my wife. And my wife, Rosa Hund at the time, she's from Paxico, Kansas. So kind of joke, we grew up in parallel universes, born on cattle farms in the Midwest, and made our way to the big city and did the big city thing, and but always kept our roots back in Paxico. And when Rosa and I first started dating, one of our first trips together was one of our first trips back home together was the Paxico Blues Festival, and this was 2007 or so. And this festival had been going on at that point, for 3 or 4 years, so it was still somewhat in its infancy. And so just fell in love, obviously, with the girl, but also the town and the people in the community, and this is for small town America. And so that's taken quite an evolution since then. But here we are today in 2023, and we're planning our 18th year of this festival this year.
Wow.
So it's great.
So people that don't know, where exactly is Paxico?
Yeah, so Paxico is exit 333 off I-70. So it's kind of in between Topeka and Manhattan, Kansas. It's a small little town, 200 people, long lasting history, obviously from Native Americans in that time that go back thousands of years to early cattle ranchers, the railroad, so settlement town, as everything kind of moved east, through the 1800s. So it is a railroad town. There's a train track that gives us a nice little vibration and background noise for the festival every year that still runs right through the town. So it's a beautiful little picturesque town. Old, late 18th century buildings that have been meticulously restored. Great small businesses, antique shops, art galleries, community spaces, lots of festivals that take place in this town. So it's a vibrant little town of 200 people that we like.
Crazy. So when people step on foot of the Blues Festival, what do they see? What do they hear? What do they feel? What do they smell?
Yeah, it's everything, and we like to really lean into that because it's like you've mentioned, you've discussed with many of your other guests. The music is kind of what brings you out for the day, but I think this is maybe even a direct quote from one of the interviews, but it's a community that keeps everybody coming back every year, and that's couldn't be more true in Paxico. And something we really witnessed through the pandemic when we took 2 years off, and how much this meant to the community, not just from the music of the day of the festival, but the resources that it brings in to help keep this small town alive and vibrant. So when you step out there on the day of the festival, I mean, you got the smell in the air of fried food. You got people setting up their lawn chairs and their coolers. You got, pop and squeeze, making ice. They're making lemonades. You got little art vendors. We like to do side projects, and you got many photographers that come in for the area. Blues lovers alike, from Kansas City to Topeka. And I'd love to give a little background on how the festival got started if we have time.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's really an interesting story, and I think this is what's kept this festival together for, like I said, going on 18 years, not counting the 2 years off for the pandemic. But so the festival was founded by my father-in-law, Bud Hund, Steve Bud Hund, president of Paxico, Kansas, named Marvine McKeithen. And Marvine moved away for many years, and she was big on the blues scene in Kansas City and ran a number of different clubs. Ran a number of different clubs, throughout the years in Kansas City. And one day, my father-in-law has an antique store, and he's one of the folks, my wife's family, one of the folks that have helped restore this town and keep it alive over the last 40 years. And one day, Marvine walks into his antique store, and she said, "My name's Marvine, and I've come home." and let's start a blues fest. And that's kind of like how it all started. And so Bud and Marvin, both who grew up in Paxico born in the 40s, 50s, coming together in the early 2000s to bring blues music to Paxico through their long, varied, relationship and their previous careers. And so it came together very organically, and it's grown year over year. And so we have a town of 200 people, and we regularly have 3, 4, 5,000 people that come out for this festival. It's completely free. We have a number of fantastic sponsors and donors around the community. Small bit help us put this on. But what's most important, I think, about this festival is that it's free to the public, but the folks that have been coming year after year after year, they come and they show up and they help contribute because they appreciate what it does, not just that day of entertainment, but like we said, what it does for the overall community. And it's had a huge impact economically, what we're able to give back over the years. Scholarships, rebuild a park, plant trees, build basketball courts, pickleball courts, So there's a lot of great things that have gone back into the infrastructure of this town because of this festival.
Did they build a golf course? Do you have a golf course?
Not quite at that level yet, but
there's
some good golf courses in the area if you're looking for something else to do
country
outside of the
for free
festival.
for an hour if you have a golf course. You get Seth. So you've seen a lot of music in your life. I'm just going to make that assumption. You've had the festival for 18 years, but I know you've been a music lover before that. So I always ask these two questions in our interview because I love it gives us insight as to who you are, what your festival is about. So this doesn't have to be necessarily in regards to your festival, but what is the best concert you've seen your entire whole life?
I know you asked this question. That's such a hard one, being live music fans. And I've been fortunate enough to live in Chicago, and now we currently live in New Orleans for 10 years and have done some things down here on the music scene a little bit. Lived in Europe. I mean, the best festival, that's just tough. I can tell you what the most memorable or memorable to me, maybe wasn't the most amazing, mind-blowing, but the most memorable and one that sticks in my heart. I had a chance to see John Prine and this kind of chokes me up a little bit. John Prine in 1996, I believe, at Butler University, and Los Lobos opened up for him. And my dad took me to the show, and John Prine we grew up on. We had all the albums, everything. Those are the albums that I have today in my collection that were my dad's, who's since passed away. So that show in 96, I believe, at Butler University with Los Lobos and John Prine was fantastic. And they stayed on stage with him forever, and they played what seemed like for the entire night. And so that was one of the most memorable things to me, because live music is such an intimate experience, and every live music is really the greatest one until you see the next one, in my opinion, because it's such an intimate once in a lifetime moment, and to be able to have those that stick in your head. Live music, what it is, what it's all about. In relation to the festival, one of the great moments is what we try to do at the Paxico Blues Fest is highlight up and coming talent. And so we've had a number of folks come through before their career is kind of ramped up, and seeing Samantha Fish play in Paxico, I don't know, 2014, 15, 13, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Right.
And then seeing her headline Jazz Fest here in New Orleans was pretty special. To see that connection from our little stage to the main stage at Jazz Fest is pretty cool. Yeah,
very cool. Okay, so you could bring one musical act, dead or alive, to the Paxico Blues Festival. Who you bringing?
Oh, geez, dead or alive. I mean, we have a huge wish list for Paxico Blues Fest. I think for me, and what we've been trying to do with the festival and the board here that have kind of transitioned over to this next generation, who are going to hopefully take this, for the next 10 or 20 years. We've been trying to explore more of the roots of blues and kind of how it all entails, and then obviously bringing the broad scope of blues. So that's a hard one. I mean, I love a Muddy Waters or a Lead Belly is kind of thing for me. Some of these old guys where like you can really see the roots of blues, but I don't know. I'm an Alan Toussaint fan, which I think has had a huge influence on some of contemporary blues and boogie and funk and everything. So Alan Toussaint would be.
That'd be perfect. All right, Seth, how do people find out more about the Paxico Blues Festival?
Yeah, we have a website, PaxicoBluesFest.com. You can email us any inquiries, sponsors, vendors. Happens the third week of September every year, 2023. So that's September 16th this year. 2023, our email is paxicoblues@gmail.com. Instagram, Paxico Blues Fest, Facebook, Paxico Blues Fest. Come out and join us. It's a great day, free to all, fun for all. We like to say it's a real good time. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. Seth, thanks for being on with us today.
yeah, thanks for the time. Thanks for having us, and maybe we'll see you out there some year.
Absolutely.
Well, baby, I'm on it with a bottle of wine.